And with me today, I have a Liz Cardenas, who is a dedicated healer, therapist, and coach with over 12 years of experience in counseling and intuitive healing. So, Liz actually guides individuals on a step-by-step journey of self-discovery, combining science, spirituality, and psychology to help clients uncover their inner sacred space and to live authentically, specializing in anxiety, life transitions, and relationship issues. Liz employs her holistic Rev Heal method to explore the sources of distress, uncover root issues, and facilitate true healing. She's fluent in both English and Spanish and is committed to making a positive impact on her community, encouraging physical, psychological, and spiritual action to bring people closer together. Welcome to the show, Liz. It's an honor to have you here.
Thank you, Anna. It's an honor for me.
Amazing. So, Liz, what inspired you to pursue a career in holistic therapy and coaching?
I like this question because it takes me way back to my childhood dream. Kind of boring, but I did always imagine myself um, as the helper, and I could picture as a little girl that red tufted couch, um, very Jungian or Freudian, I guess. But nevertheless, it was really this idea, this feeling of wanting to serve and help others. So that was very clear early on in my life.
Mm, amazing. Thank you so much. And so, was there any kind of significant kind of events in your life which really kind of helped to transform you?
Hmm. I guess a lot of them. Now, looking back, I realize that many were not so much these big traumatic events.
Mm.
I think when we hear the word trauma, it's quite scary, and we immediately think of something very impactful to us, whether it's, just emotional or just physical. We don't really think about trauma being this word we hear or this phrase that we hear often throughout our lives that really is impactful. So I've even gone as far as to now use the word imprints through my therapeutic sessions with clients, because we really understand that it doesn't have to be this huge trauma that really impacts our belief system, that then we start to create these behaviors based on the belief system. And so to underline this idea, for me it was maybe just several different imprints throughout my life that really were very impactful to me and crushing, because I consider myself quite empathetic and very compassionate. And for those of us that come into the world with our hearts just out in the open, they tend to get smashed and crushed,
Yeah.
and it doesn't have to be a big traumatic event. Although I did have several, because as a child, I did encounter just men imposing, and as a young adult, the same, um, and even to go as far as a sexual assault in my young years. So to answer that question, yes and no, because I think the imprints, the little ones, mattered sometimes even more than the big, trauma that I've encountered.
So true, so true.
So
And yeah, I speak about this a lot where it's just the little things that your parents or your teacher may have said to you, or even kids at school, calling you,
yes,
stupid. It's, those words stick
right,
hard, don't they? Wow. Mm,
yes, yeah.
brilliant. Yeah, so,
Mm.
so now in your practice, how do you integrate science, spirituality, and psychology?
Mm. Um, I feel like it's this holistic approach where I don't necessarily walk into every session knowing that I'm going to, you know, sit in ritual or in some ceremony or some spiritual enlightening type of process, but rather to just let it be And I think that in itself is more of the spiritual aspect that I approach it with, where if I have a client that just starts to really feel emotionally charged, because energy is emotion, and because we want to move that energy. And first, there's that process of awareness, and where are we feeling this emotion? And so then it becomes this somatic therapy that's incorporated. And then before you know it, we're just feeling the healing and the shift in energy and the shift in motion while we're, yes, talking about it like any psychotherapeutic process, but it goes deeper than that. And so to call it just a spiritual process, I think we're all quite spiritual because we're all energetic and we're all emotion based. So um, it's kind of a mix of this meeting the client where they're at and addressing the situation in how it's in however they're most comfortable with. I
Amazing.
do have some clients that walk in and say, okay, let's sit and really just connect with our beings and energies. Okay, let's do that. And then we move into the therapeutic process that way.
Yeah,
So it
amazing.
is really meeting the person where they are. And
Yeah.
that in itself is quite spiritual, you know.
It is absolutely, yeah. We're all spiritual bodies, aren't we? Spiritual beings. And so
Yeah,
yeah, no, I love that. And so I know that you're quite intuitive as well in the way that you practice, because it's all about listening to yourself, and I guess in that sense you're letting the client guide you.
right.
Mm.
Yeah. It very much is about that, right? And the more the client could open up and disclose, and tune in to their emotional state, maybe their psychological state, then we're also able to guide and un it's almost like this undoing of knots and bottlenecks to really uncover the root causes of the distress.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because we say that a lot about onion layers, like peeling up
Yes,
the onion layers. There's just
yes,
so much, isn't there, before you actually get to the root problem. Because you have
right.
all these disguises, don't you, in like addictions or like in you might have relationship
Mhm.
issues and insecurity issues, and ugh, the list goes on. So
Right.
yeah, it's peeling
And
those
these are
back.
just the wonderful symptoms, right? That our beautiful mind
Yeah,
formulates and to keep us quote unquote safe and in the unknown or in the known versus the unknown.
yeah.
Even though the known can be quite toxic and maladaptive um, to our well-being, you know.
So true. Yeah, yeah.
So
So your specialty now is in like anxiety and life transitions as well as relationship issues. So how do these areas intersect with trauma healing?
yeah, that's a great question. I feel like this is such a normal symptom, anxiety. I
Okay.
just this last week put out a blog stating and maybe even planting that seed, right? Is let's look at anxiety not so much as our enemy and something that we need to mute or erase from from our toolbox, but rather, what is this anxious symptom telling me? What area does this anxiety want me to focus on, to heal, to change, to at least, understand better about myself? And so when I say, this is what I treat, anxiety, this is the very top layer. Oftentimes it's this alarm system, right, that goes off and it's telling us, hey, pay attention here, or why is it that when I drive, I get very anxious, or why is it? So it's really just a, a way to understand the self deeper and get to that, again, that root cause. And often I find that clients that come to me for relationship issues
Mhm.
and maybe maybe they know a bit about generational trauma, and at least are aware that they have some issues, maybe with family members or just relationships, period. But then I found that the more we uncover the layers and that onion you're talking about that we're peeling back, um, these are again just symptoms, because it all comes back to the self. How am I experiencing life and how am I navigating through it
Yeah.
with these beliefs and behaviors that are not serving who I truly am and who I want to be. And I think that when someone asks, like, okay, what population do you work with? Who do you work with as a therapist? I say, well, people come to me for these symptoms, but really the underlying causes are just, again, 80, 90% of clients have some type of sexual trauma, um, whether it's a full-on assault, a full-on, or just some type of experience with this. Um, and then that starts to form how we navigate through life,
Yeah.
how we see ourselves, how the relationship to food, the relationship to our peers, and how safe we are in this world. So it's so much deeper than just, oh yeah, relationships or anxiety. These are just the top layers. And although they can obviously they impact our life negatively, um, getting to the bottom or getting to the core is key.
Yeah, yeah. And because you work a lot with like adolescents and children as well. So how do you tailor your actual therapeutic approach to these different demographic groups?
Right. Yeah. And I think as I move forward in my practice, I realize that this population, 20, 21 to 28-year-olds, failure to launch, have all these top layer symptoms. If I if I reverse the clock, I start to see these young adults, these teenagers, these elementary school children with really distinct symptoms, and they're all connected to this failure to launch. Because if we start to really feel these symptoms at a young age and they're left untreated, then we can see how they will, snowball into this devastating, maybe even in despair type of behavior. So to answer your question, the children or the young adults and teens I work with, a lot of them are suicidal. A lot of them, we tend to find that they have these overlapping events in their lives. Again, not necessarily in danger, but there are just way too many changes in their lives for them to manage and cope, developmentally at least. Um, because as children, we look to our parents to keep us safe, to help us navigate the world, and so to feel like there's too many changes, we don't have the abilities, developmentally, to cope and manage adequately. And so I find that that's kind of correlated to how these 25, 28-year-olds are navigating the world, coming from that unstable feeling, I'm sorry.
Mm,
Um,
yeah, so
so it's
true.
pretty important now to come back to these children and get to heal them and work with them before um, they become young adults.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much. And what do you find are the biggest kind of challenges that you face during life transitions? And how do you actually help your clients to navigate these changes?
I mean, depending on the age, um, I mean, if I'm working with young adults, it's almost like they have more of the autonomy to take their own therapeutic process and healing journey. But when you're working with children, it almost, like always, right, falls on the parents.
Yeah.
And sometimes this in itself is quite detrimental to the family because we're kind of triggering the homeostasis. And, it's a lot for the whole family to manage as a whole. So I think that is a struggle that I often see like within the therapeutic process of children and families versus when they're more, just 2021, they're able to make their own decisions and manage their care. If it's detrimental, they're able to, make the move and leave their household or the environment that's causing issues. So, so yeah, it's quite a challenge when we're dealing with the children.
And so do you deal specifically with the Latin community as well?
Oh, great question. I love this question because although I am and I absolutely work with this community and I can happily say, and it's an honor that I have worked with every kind of nationality and in every kind of like all walks of life. So
Mhm.
that brings joy to me because it's really understanding on my end, we are one. And although the problem feels differently, the problem sounds like it's, not understood by other cultures and it's a lot of times the same issue. It's just, it's a different, religion. It's a different language. Um, it manifests differently as far as symptoms, but the core problem is most often the same. Um, and so to be able to work with, the Middle Eastern community, the Asian community, the just every and any. It's really an honor to be able to do that.
Oh, amazing. Thank
Yeah.
you. And so what are some of the like practices that you utilize in your sessions? Like any specific techniques that work?
Yes, and this is why I put out this reveal program or method, I should say, because again, going through the many sessions and mentorships and different walks of life and different nationalities, I found that there is, for me at least, and working with this population, it works really well to have this reveal method, which is awareness. And then you work through to get to the core of the issue. You heal that part. And then there's this part of the process where we get to empower ourselves. And that's a beautiful place, to be able to guide that person, but also empower them to once, okay, I healed this part, I feel better. What do I do next?
Mm,
And so then we implement the behavioral part where we take the person's strengths.
mm,
Everyone has different strengths and gifts. And then we really work hard on creating behaviors surrounding that. Like, how can I use my strengths, right? Going back to this artistic point, and how do I use that to navigate this world and be authentic? And so I think that process, that method has really worked well. Some of the techniques that I use often is guided imagery.
mm,
Um, and so, as you may already know, guided imagery is a lot of, just vision and a lot of um, just connecting to what we desire, what we want. But more than that, with guided imagery, I have created a set of sessions that take the person from a crisis state to a place of, healed and empowered and their toolbox full
mm,
with different, strengths and the self-esteem and confidence to take on whatever comes up. And so that part is really helpful when working with clients to be able to use the guided imagery
mm,
to bypass the logic side of the emotional state and just connect to the emotion. So it's really been very productive and therapeutically, I could see the benefits, some 50% in terms of time. So
Wow.
it cuts 50% of the time in therapy.
Yeah. Oh,
So it's
fantastic.
helpful.
It is,
Yeah.
yeah, because you hear of, people staying in therapy for years, you and
Yes.
yeah, so if there's like a kind of timeline, for people that they can follow and to heal faster, then
Mhm.
fantastic, yeah, albeit,
Right.
that's
Yes.
what we all want, yeah.
Yeah.
So amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And so
Of
can you
course.
share any success story where your method has actually made a significant impact on a client's life?
Yes. I mean, due to confidentiality, I can't
Um,
disclose much, but I can tell you I have, oh, I don't know. Sometimes I think of my clients and their process, their journey. Um, I have one client that could not even drive.
Wow.
Beautiful person, but just the anxiety, the overwhelming thoughts and fears, and it was so impactful to her life that she was unable to take on her daily activities. And I can say now that she is doing amazingly. She has a beautiful career in the medical field. And yeah,
She's
she's
driving.
doing extremely well.
Amazing.
Definitely driving everywhere.
Oh,
And so this is someone that we did a lot of guided imagery. Well, we did all of the sessions, and then we did a lot of psychotherapeutic, therapy talk, but also a lot of Reiki, energy healing. And so there was, a lot of trauma.
yeah,
And it feels good to say, wait, we can heal our trauma. We
yeah,
don't have to carry it with us in the same way. We will always remember it and have it,
yeah.
right? But it does not have to
Define.
hurt and limit us. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And anxiety is like that. I mean, yeah, I hear so many horror stories of people they can't even like leave their city because they just get
Right.
anxiety,
Right.
when they're out of their comfort zones. And
Yes.
yeah, because we know, don't we, as people who are on the road of recovery and resilient with like resilient mindsets, we know that the way to like for real growth is to actually step out of our comfort zones. But then if you're too anxious to even do anything, then you're really hindering yourself. So you
Mhm.
know yeah, like the only advice is to go and seek help, for find
Right.
yourself, find a healer or a therapist to
Right.
talk through, what is it, where does the fear stem from? Let's get to the
Mhm.
root cause of it so that we can heal from it
Yeah.
and move on past that. And yeah, so
I often tell my clients once they're in a, a place to hear this, right, that we get to find the beauty in these dark moments.
yeah,
If I tell someone at the beginning of, the therapeutic journey, I think they'd think I'm not very good at what I do, but to really sit back and look
mm,
at how far we've come along and what work we've put into ourselves, that is already healing. But to really look at, like, wow, this really impactful event once was just so dark, but I could see so much beauty that has come out of this. That's what I talk about. Yeah.
oh, that's beautiful, thank you.
Mhm.
And so how do you envision the integration of holistic therapy into mainstream mental health practices?
Mm. Yeah, sometimes I feel that that's a difficult topic to discuss in certain, rooms with certain people. Um, but I want to say this that I think, well, I know that a lot of times what we call, religion, what we call our beliefs, what we call our, our uh, daily routines are all quite ritualistic.
Yeah, yeah, true.
If we really sit back and think of what we do on a daily basis, a lot of our days are very ritualistic. Um, Now, maybe the difference is that we have lost that connection to it. Um, and so to come back to that might sound a little, maybe far-fetched, but to come back to this idea that we have this connection. We have the ability to connect to what we do, how we do things. Um, One of my favorite uh, quotes is by Rumi. I'm not going to say all of it, but we get to do whatever it is we're doing in love, with love. And so that in itself is quite spiritual, quite ritualistic, quite, and so if we're getting ready for work, if we're, preparing for an exam, if we're all, it's in preparation of, and it's quite ritualistic. So to talk about spirituality within different groups, I think there's the opportunity is always there. I can see how that can easily fit into maybe a women's group, a book club book, but I can easily talk about spirituality in maybe with a science major because this is science too. We're matter and we're energy. Our emotions are energy, and we could talk about how there's many scientifically proven ways that we can tell how we are energy, we're connected to the earth. And so, there's always a way to talk about and bring it. Um, I think the approach is probably, or the delivery is probably what matters. And to not come off as offensive and
True.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, because I guess when they're controversial topics, then yeah, it could really get to people. So
Yeah.
yeah, so
Yes.
I guess it's
Yes.
all about just, having like a non-biased way of dealing with these. But I mean, from my own experience and from, what I know about holistic therapy, it's just the best because
Yeah.
it's energy healing, like you said, we are energy, and so
Yeah.
our energy, they get like chakras get blocked, so they need releasing. And
Yes.
how do you do that? You do that through
Yeah.
Reiki, and you do that through like things like emotional freedom therapy work and other,
Right.
I don't know, other energy healing practices. I don't know if you know any more.
I mean, there's so many, but I mean, well, now we hear so many more, right? The use of medicine plants and all of these um, techniques. And we can definitely um, be scared about it. We could maybe shy away from it.
Or implement
Um,
it.
but we can negate the fact that our plants are, are part of us and that they're quite medicinal. I
Mm,
mean, we use tea as our, every day,
yeah,
but we don't think where it comes from. We don't think how it's been used in the past.
yeah,
And it's always been used as medicinal or for medicinal purposes. It's just that now we use it as just a drink to share and
yeah,
enjoy. So,
yeah.
it just, again, I think it's just this idea that, how connected are we to how we lead our daily lives?
Mm, so true, so true.
And that's often a question that I like to ask. Well, oh, someone says, yeah, I do this every day. And why is it that you do yoga every day? Well, I heard it's good for you. Okay, well,
Good.
why was yoga, what does this yoga do for you versus what was yoga as what was it meant to do originally? And so again, it's is it a trend? Are we trying to fit in, or is it that we are really connecting and it's doing, the benefits are there for the individual.
Very true.
So
Yeah.
I think just to go back a bit, because I know we talked a little bit about what, holistic approach is.
Mm.
And to me, it is just that, like being open to not only meeting the person where they're at, but also being open to introducing new ways of thinking, new ways of perceiving. And that incorporates, the mind, the body, the soul, the emotions. We often just think of the mind, body, spirit, and we forget the emotions.
So
And
true.
that's the energetic side that we, as society, we don't include.
So
So
true. Wow. Thank you
yeah.
so much for sharing. And so, where can my listeners find you?
Yes, definitely online on my website, lizcardenastherapy.com, or on Instagram. Um, yeah, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, no, that's great. And I'll be adding the links onto this. And do you have any one like last message that you'd like to share with my listeners?
I think 2025 for me is at least the beginning of it is it feels very much about just connecting back to the self. And maybe that's a bit biased on my end to say, but I just time and time I come back to this idea of like, well, am I just, going about my day like a robot, or is there intention behind this? And so maybe that's what I'd like to leave your audience with. What is my intention for this next task or activity or goal that I have? So to connect it back to our self.
Yeah, yeah. So it could be short-term goals, long-term goals, our
Yeah.
2025 plan. It's yeah, like you said, it's understanding why we're doing it and just maybe
Mhm.
the meaning behind it. I think that's beautiful. And that's how we are able to then keep our goals, aren't we? Because then we know how important they are to us because there's a meaning behind it.
Yeah.
There's a purpose and you know, a greater reason. It could be, for your family as well. And yeah, and I just think as well,
Yeah.
yeah, so like the more we create around that, then, the more likely we're going to achieve. So yeah.
Yes. I'm actually getting ready to launch a 12-week program. It's a mastermind with this in mind. Okay, we've done some work. We have some awareness, but now what? How do we live intentionally? What does that look like?
Mm,
Because it's quite a difference, right? To live intentionally and to, just versus getting up, doing the rat race,
mm,
getting the kids to school, getting to work, clocking out, getting home. Um, what is that doing for our, how fulfilled are we? What is that doing for our love tank, our emotional state? And so, what kind of things can we do to ensure that these goals happen, but that we're happy and fulfilled with them? And I think that part is the message. Like, how can we be happier? Like, how can we be intentionally happy with what we're doing? Sometimes they're just boring tasks, but it leads to a goal and so on and so forth.
yeah.
So,
Oh, lovely. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, fantastic. No, thank you. And what have you got in the future planned? What's your goals?
Oh, yes, my goals. So I am creating this. I've launched the first and the second comic book strip is coming for all things therapy, all things holistic, spiritual journey, and just this comic book series that's on Instagram is more to just maybe plant seeds to get the audience thinking, hey, how do I connect to this? How does this trigger me? What areas um, am I bothered by with what Liz said? Or how offensive is this to my culture? Why am I offended by this? How true is this of my children? Do they see me as this? So it's just these mini stories that highlight different cultures, different traumas, different healing journeys in a little, four skit Instagram reel or carousel to kind of get people to just become a little more aware and maybe accept therapy a little more. Um, and so that I'm very excited about that. That just came out this last month or two, and I continue to build the stories, hoping to create a book soon in the year to come or so. Yeah. And
Oh,
so that's I'm excited about that just because I know when I put it out to the youth at the several schools that I talked about this comic book with, the teenagers were very excited about it. So, and
amazing.
this is directly connected to art because then we'll have different artists that are collaborating and putting their um, sense, their piece, their vision into this. So
Oh,
it's quite a project to collaborate with others and bring different cultures together.
oh, that's
Um,
fantastic. Yeah.
so I'm excited about that because going back to what you asked, do I only work with Latinos or Hispanics? No, this is one of the ways that I show that we
Um,
work
yeah.
and connect with all cultures and walks of life.
All spiritual beings.
Everyone,
Yeah,
yes, yes,
I love
exactly.
that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Good luck on that. It's so exciting. I'm really excited for you, and I can't wait to see this finished product either.
Mhm.
So
Thank
yeah,
you.
do keep us in the loop, but I'm sure you'll, if everybody follows you on Instagram, then they'll keep in the loop that way.
Yes, that would be great. And
Amazing.
feedback. I love feedback and comments and sharing your story with me so we can put it on the next, comic strip here. That would be amazing.
That would, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
fantastic. Yeah. So,
Mhm.
listeners, please do get in touch with Liz to share your stories if you're brave enough to do so. And, we're here to support you and guide you along the way. Liz, it's been fantastic having you on and just, having this beautiful conversation and understanding more about your practice and about your insights. And, oh, do you actually work online with clients?
I do actually work online, and I have also office, but I work with online and work with all areas.
Yeah.
Geographic location, as we know, with a virtual setting
Yeah,
is not an issue. So
exactly.
yes,
Excellent. Oh, that's amazing. And that opens you up to anybody around the world, which is great.
definitely,
Yeah.
yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
lovely. And face to face, which area are you based in?
Yes, I have an office in Los Angeles area,
Mhm.
and I have an office in Orange County area.
Lovely.
And
Oh,
so that covers quite a bit,
yeah,
and it works. Yeah, it just works.
it does. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
beautiful. Oh,
Mhm.
thank you again. And yeah, everybody, please do get in touch with us if you have any questions about anything that was discussed today. And, that's all we have time for today, my friends. And we look forward to seeing you in the next show. Take care, my
Thank
friend.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.